morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. So I didn't come back last week after I went down to St. Anne's Shrine and did that little video down there, but I had wrote all this stuff down about how I wanted to talk about the history of St. Anne's Shrine and the little hidden underbelly of some things that were going on in Florida with these nunneries. So when I was down there at St. Anne's Shrine, what I wanted to talk to y'all about was how much deeper that this all goes. And I'm really stuck on St. Anne's Shrine because I've been going out there since I was a little kid with my mother. And it's so ironic now that I know that this is a sacred Atlantean node. And that, probably even when I was little, I was anchoring that grid point, that node on the lake. And then I ended up moving out here to Lake Walking Water. And I lived on Hesperdes Road for 30 plus years. I still live off of Hesperdes Road. It's meant for me to live here on top of this crystalline ridge. So I want to talk about some stuff that happened in the 60s because I remember that when I was a kid, we had a new high school because the original high school was burnt down and they blamed it on the KKK. Because, anything that happened in the South that had to do with crime, these kind of crimes, they all blamed it on the KKK. Oh, this old world building got burnt down because they didn't want integration. They burnt the building down because they were destroying relics. This is what they were doing. They were destroying evidence. They were damaging these sacred spots because these are markers. These are markers for sacred sites. And when you have DNA that is a key that works with different sites, whichever one you were born closest to is the planetary node that you're tuned into. So, where you find, a lot of people say, yeah, I found myself 40 years later going back home. That's because that's where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be working, tuning that node. So all of these old world structures that were damaged by fire, it was schools and educational places like this. I don't believe that it had to do with the KKK. I think it had to do with the Lavender Mafia. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to talk about the Sisters of the Holy Names of Jesus and Mary. Or I'm just going to use the acronym SNJM. They were a Catholic women's order founded in Montreal, Quebec in 1843. Now, Montreal itself sits on ancient indigenous land. So it's a power place of the Iroquois and the Mohawk people. So from the beginning, these people were not just teaching children. They were establishing spiritual outposts on top of old sacred ground. So in 1868, they made their first move to Florida, settling in Key West. They took an abandoned Civil War barracks, old Atlantean structure, a site of war trauma, and transformed it into the Mary Immaculate Covenant and school. Now, you have to remember that these Civil War barracks that, you have one all the way down in Key West, all the way down. And you can travel out there. You can take a weekend and you can go out there and you can camp on that island where the barracks are. And then, of course, you've got St. Augustine. All of these spots that are on these sacred spots, a lot of them, they put like Civil War barracks on top. It's to put a scar of trauma on top of the node. Okay. In 1868, they made their way to Florida. They settled in Key West. They took the Civil War barracks. It was marked with war trauma. They turned it into the Mary Immaculate Covenant School. On the surface, it looked like an act of charity, of course. They were bringing education to the frontier. Those good people. But if you look deeper, this was a frequency architecture. Taking a battlefield resonance and clothing it in Marian imagery, flipping the energy and anchoring a Catholic grid point at the southern tip of the state. So, were these nuns doing things for the good of the people? Or were they working for the Lavender Mafia? This is the question. So, from there, the sisters moved inland. In 1881, the two of them came to Tampa. They began a blacksmithing shop. Now, the symbolism couldn't be more clear with the blacksmith. I mean, what do blacksmiths do? The archetype is about forging and reshaping everything. So they were reshaping the cultural DNA of Florida itself. So by 1891, they'd built the Academy of the Holy Names on the banks of the Hillsborough River. It was a massive brick fortress. Yes, we're talking about bricks again. We're going to talk more about bricks because, you know, these bricks were used to hold memory. They hold memory. They held memory of the World Mother. This is why courthouses, you know, if you don't see the brick, if they've stuccoed over it, you can still see, you know, 3 or 4 foot of brick on the base of the building all the way around. And that's because they were frequency amplifiers. These original brick buildings are the old mud bricks are the original bricks. Okay. So overlooking the water, of course, because, you know, everything on the water, because it's all about harvesting energy, using sacred nodes. Now, let's remember the timeline, because many researchers will talk about a world reset happening in about 1750 or 1760. And after that time, we had the American Revolution, which, you know, my family was before the American Revolution in Continental Congress. That's when the Randolphs were in the United States. And then we had Jefferson afterwards. But, you know, Jefferson, I've been reading a lot of his personal letters, and there's a lot of stuff going on that a lot of people don't know about. And thank goodness that Jefferson was he was an Aries, and he couldn't stop talking. He always was writing letters. He was a chatty Cathy. All right, so my family does have a, you know, involvement in this. So my own Randolph family line was involved. Thomas Jefferson, who's a Randolph, he had a very unique view on religion, and while he avoided secret societies, and it's highly debated. A lot of people want to say that he was in a secret society, but there is no proof that Thomas Jefferson was a Mason. You know, he had a lot of animosity towards the Randolph family. He didn't want to talk about his mother's family line because it is a series of broken relationships with the mother in the Randolphs. My dad's mother, broken relationship. Her mother, broken relationship. Her mother, broken relationship. It goes all the way back. It's all a bunch of trauma overlays on my family line. And one of them was the destruction of the mother. I mean, Patsy's mother died when she was 10. My dad's grandmother, my great-grandmother, Emma Jane Randolph, her mother, she was in Adams. She died when she was 10. My grandma Lily, she never took care of my father. My father was living with my great-grandmother from the time he was born. And I learned this when I did my regression, and I talked to my great-grandmother. She told me she always had my dad since the time he came home from the hospital. So, you know, there's a trauma overlay that's happened in my family for generations upon generations upon generations, and this is broken family relationships with the mother. Something happens. And so, you know, Thomas Jefferson, he had not much for the Masons, and he wasn't involved in the Masonic groups. At the same time, Rome was deploying Catholic orders like the Jesuits and these Marian nuns into the New World. So these were called Marian nuns. Remember how we've talked over and over again about Marion County, cities called Marion. They're all over the world. Mary, M-A-R-I, just 100 different deviations of it. Okay, so these were nuns that were working for the Catholic order, and they were going around just like Mother Teresa. I mean, look at what we know about Mother Teresa. Here we thought this woman was a saint. She couldn't have been further from a saint. She was working for the Lavender Mafia. They were taking kids from all over the world, allegedly. All over the world. This has been a harvesting program since the get-go. All about getting genetics, okay? You know, the myth that you have of the vampire and the werewolf, and I say that the Merovingians, they had blood disorders. The Merovingians were the wolves of God. They were the Davidic line. These people came from Lyra. They came from Lyra. They were the wolves of God. They had canine genetics. They came from another star system. They ended up in the Pleiades because they were chased all the way from the cradle at Lyra, all the way across the solar system because they were trying to harvest them. The Dracos wanted to harvest these beings because they have the essence that they need. They need these bloodlines to go through stargates. And I know I sound like a broken record about having the key and having the right genes and being able to pass through stargates and being used in special programs, but that's how it is, folks. That's how it is. We've had this parasites on us since Atlantis. And this is when we lost our bicameral mind. We used to be all connected to the unified field. And we got parasites. They're the parasites. We have to get rid of them. We have to get rid of them. And they've been here for a long time. Okay? So, this is just one more version of harvesting. Was a cover on the Marian nuns. I used to be part of these Marian nuns in past lifetimes, but not this kind. Not this kind. So when you look at it, this wasn't random. It's a collection of lineages and networks. Masonics, Romans, the nuns, the Jesuits, all laying groundwork for something larger. And here's the controversial thought. Could this have been part of a long game that eventually fed into modern programs like the SSP? The secret space projects. When you're seeding grids, manipulating DNA codes, and overriding indigenous memory, you're essentially building a control architecture for the future. And I've mentioned this in my last couple videos, that I think this is what the Cabbage Babies was all about, and the orphan trains. It wasn't, we're all looking at trying to figure out, how did these kids get sent over here? You know, what was the context? Where was the war at? You know, but we need to step back and go even further. Breeding programs. This is seeding. You know, we have time travelers among us. And some of them are going back to cause the paradox because they don't want us to go where we're going. Mama is home, baby. Oh, and they found her. And they found her. And we're gonna do a separate video on that because I have been gloating with joy. I am so ecstatic that they finally found Mother. Oh my gosh. She said they would. She said they would. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have confirmation. I'm going to show you what she looks like too. And you're going to be like, oh, she looks just like you described. All right. So this brings me back to the place that I was at the other day, St. Anne's Shrine. So in Catholic tradition, St. Anne is the mother of Mary. And if Mary is the overlay for the world mother, then Anne is a deeper matriarchal lineage. Think about this, folks. She's a grandma. The root system behind the Marian cloak. This shrine is a portal to the original mother codes before they were filtered and repackaged. So, you know, when you're walking on these sites, what you're really seeing is a hidden map. You're seeing a hidden map. You're seeing the red bricks. You're seeing the coquina. You're seeing all these signs and symbolisms. There was the heart that was on fire, that was on that shrine there. So, you know, within the land, it still remembers. And, you know, the indigenous children of this time still carry these codes, too. Why do you think that, you know, such things were done to the indigenous Native American kids? They have memory. The South American kids that are coming up through the border and vanishing, they have the memory. This is what this is about, folks. So, basically, you have this Catholic order after the reset that I think was the rise of the French-Canadian nuns. The Jesuits, the Franciscans, and the female teaching orders flood the New World. And their role is to educate. Remember, they're going to tame these savages, right? They're going to educate the indigenous and colonial children. They're going to harvest DNA codes and repattern matriarchal archetypes. They function as a female priesthood, mirror to the male Masonic Jesuit structures, or the Lavender Mafia. Okay, so they were hijacking the divine feminine, the original world mother, which is the red and the bee priestesses. You know, they honored the earth grids. The Catholic sisterhoods became shadow mirrors and the false priesthoods. They anchored shrines and schools over sacred sites, and they flipped the frequency on them. And like we talked about, the Key West spot, the Key West convent, the SNJM, and I have it in this book. I marked it in here. I'll show you what this place looks like. Is this the convent? Here it is. The Convent of Mary Immaculate. So this was built by the Sisters of the Holy Names of Jesus and Mary, a Canadian order that came to Key West in 1868 to set up a school. So, and it's right off of Truman Avenue. Let me show you the old cemetery. Yeah. Tell me that's not from lands before time, right? Yeah. So, Rome had the church feminine orders. Freemasonry carried the male secret grid work. Together they formed a dual polarity control system. Indigenous children's DNA codes were gathered, spiritual and biological. And this looks like groundwork for later genetic programs, if you ask me. So, just like earlier groups, modern saints like Mother Teresa had darker ties. So, there's all kind of allegations against Mother Teresa. Trafficking, resource funneling, child trading. Yeah, suggests that this wasn't isolated. This is an ongoing lineage of child access and programming. So, by the 20th century, we had Operation Paperclip. We've got NASA, DARPA, Vatican Archives converge. All the groundwork of child indoctrination, DNA collection, and sacred site hijacking becomes a perfect seedbed for the SSP recruitment. So many SSP experiencers recall being taken as children, often from religious or Masonic-connected families. That'd be me. Could the convent schools, the Jesuit colleges, Masonic lodges have been recruitment portals? Yes, they could. Could these also be recruitment portals? And we're going to talk about this too. We're going to talk about this place, NAM. And I have all of the paperwork where this came to my daughter. This came to my daughter. Let's look at the year that was on this. 2015. So this was when my daughter was 8 years old. 8 years old. They came to the school and they solicited her for modeling. And this is one way that these creeps get in by your kids. They come in the guise of taking your kids to Hollywood. Look here. Taking your kids to Hollywood. All kind of business with this. This is the second time that my daughter has been cold solicited while she was someplace away from home for modeling. The first time she was 2 or 3 years old, we were in Sarasota. We lived in Sarasota. We were at a Walmart. This man and woman walked up to us and said, "Hey, we're looking for the next Coppertone commercial baby. And your daughter's got what it takes. She's just a cute little blonde-haired, big blue-eyed twin." And she was there with her twin. And boy, they really wanted her to do a photo shoot. Kept on asking. We finally just said, yeah, whatever. I wish I'd have kept the stuff that they gave me. My daughter would not do it. We tried to get her to take photos at the beach later. She wouldn't do it. She was like, absolutely not. Her intuition already knew because my daughter is a clairvoyant. And, her intuition told her how to act, told her how to operate. But these places get into schools. NAM, another one. Terrible ratings. The Better Business Bureau had all kind of ratings on National American Miss, based in Houston, Texas. State franchise locations in Florida and across the U.S. They're going to be where your school's at and your kids are, my friends. So they had a lot of complaints. They only rated 2.3 out of 5 stars by families online. Many calling it a scam, citing misleading mail solicitations, high cost of registration without refunds or transparency. Better Business Bureau listed as accredited A+ rating, but complaints note aggressive recruitment via mail, and marketing practices targeting families unsolicited through schools or public places. So they're soliciting your kids without your consent. Yes, they absolutely were. So, modeling and pageantry are not just beauty contests. They're gateway, folks. They serve as recruitment fronts for trafficking networks or exploitative industries. These systems prey on light bearers and grail children looking to hijack soul paths or fracture family lines. In many cases, beauty is weaponized through inversion. True radiance is soul deep, not surface level. Children are baited with dreams of fame or success, but the intention is energy siphoning or soul harvesting. Donald Trump and other elites have been linked to modeling agencies that involve minors and yacht trips before pageants. This is ritual in nature. Grooming protocol hidden in plain sight. So this is a list that I came up with going through all of these sites that I found when I was doing research on NAM. Scam exploitative agencies identified by former models. 9 and the number 9.com. Empire Models. NYLA Talent. Preview Models. About Faces Modeling in Atlanta. Talent Incorporated. Cross Country. Map/West 38. PMTM Agency in Chicago. Rebecca Scouting. Discovery Models, Photo Studio Group LLC, Studio One, Talent USA. And let me see, did I have any more? I think that might be it for this list. But I mean, is that not enough? That these places are coming into your school, they're getting near your kids, and they're soliciting them, and these are little girls, and then they take you all the way across the state to Hollywood to do the pageant. So, they're taking you away from home. They're putting you in a strange place. And they encourage you to, to enjoy your child side and bring your bathing suit and all that stuff, So let's talk about missing kids real quick, because, I can't remember if I actually published this video, because the time that I originally tried to do it, the dogs kept barking and everything, so it was like 7 interruptions in the video. But the United States has the highest number of missing children in the whole world. The United States has 460,000 missing children reported per year. India, 96,000. UK, 112,853. Germany, 100,000. So the top 4 places are the United States, the UK, India, and Germany. It's about genetics. It's about genetics. And folks, if you think that just because you have African American genetics, you're off the hook, you're wrong. Because you're Lyran. You are Lyran, just like me. You come from the beginning. And so, if you think you're off the hook on that, you're wrong. You're being harvested just like everybody else. This is why you're so suspicious of everything. Because your subconscious already knows. You already know. You already know you're an SSP target. So let's go back to this. So just like earlier groups, these modern saints like Mother Teresa had darker ties. And this suggests it wasn't isolated. So it's ongoing harvesting. So, leads to me, if you ask me, I think this is the seeds of the SSP program and work. So what we call the SSP today may be the harvest fruit of centuries of groundwork. Seriously, let's just really give this some thought. First the reset, then the religious Masonic orders embedding themselves into the land and the people, and the technological phase of the same control system, SSP, and now we are unraveling it, my friends. We are unraveling it. And so, we need to start looking at these old world structures for what they really are. They were taken over. They were taken over in an attempt to control the grid. This is why you see all these old mud bricks that are under all this stucco, that are in all these old world buildings that have been torn down, that have been repurposed in other buildings. Just because they tore them down and recycled the bricks didn't mean that these bricks lost their energy. They still hold memory, folks. They hold memory. And, I've been doing this thing called the Red Brick Diaries, where I've been just doing shorts where I take photos that I've taken most of them myself, but a couple of my friends that travel a lot, one in particular, my friend Serena, who travels a lot, she said the last time that she was in Norway and Finland, she sent me a bunch of red brick diary photos. So, you know, we're gonna start showing all of these places that are sacred spots that are made with these old world bricks, and they're different. These bricks are different. See, these bricks have a certain color to them. And they look different. You can tell the old world bricks from the new bricks. They look totally different. They look very spongy. See? See how this looks? They're very spongy. I hope you can see that. It's hard. Everything gets shadows on it in here. So, you can see how you have these colors. There's memory in this. And see, you know, we have to go through the North Pole to get off the planet, guys. You know, our Lyran Gate was damaged, so we've been going through underneath Greenland, through wormhole to get us through the North Pole exit. And that's where I was at when I was a kid. I was in train there. We're here for this time, baby. We're here for this time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about St. Anne Shrine's history, because it was called St. Anne de Lac, and it was a shrine built about 1920 by French-speaking Catholics on Lake St. Anne, a lake about 15 acres located about 6 miles east of Lake Wales, Florida, and 1.5 miles south of State Road 60, which is Hesperides Road, Garden of Hesperides. Let's not forget, Florida was a part of Atlantis. The shrine included a church, an elaborate set of statuaries which made up the Stations of the Cross, and were spread through the surrounding woods on a set of trails. A statue of St. Anne stood at the lake itself on a raised stone platform, creating a very evocative scene. So that tower that I showed you, that originally had a statue of Grandma, St. Anne. Okay? All right. So pilgrimage were made to the shrine from throughout the state. The thousands of people crowded the narrow road from the highway to the small lake, often parking at a great distance away and walking to the shrine. This shrine, which was complete with tableaux and scenes of the Holy Land in murals, sculpture, and paintings, would also host the Feast of St. Anne on July 26th, and thousands could attend this event. And Mardi Gras was also hosted there. Okay, let's not forget about July 26th. This is Leo, baby. This is Leo. This is about the World Mother from Lyra. This is what it's all about. This is why feast day is on July 6th. My dad was born on July 30th. He's a Leo. His middle name is Ray. He's very much Leo. All about his hair. Thousands would attend this event. And Mardi Gras, they used to have Mardi Gras down there. We have Mardi Gras downtown still. We used to have like 100,000 people down here at Mardi Gras. Our Mardi Gras used to be banging. Oh, I just got a thump on my watch. The story of St. Anne Shrine goes like this. So it's interesting that we would have Mardi Gras there. So, you know, we really need to dig what this Mardi Gras thing is, because I got a thump on my watch when I was saying Mardi Gras. So we need to look at Mardi Gras. Really, what is the whole point of Mardi Gras? It's French, right? We know that the Holy Grail bloodlines come from France. We know that there's extreme perversion going on in France right now, that they're completely desecrating the original Divine Mother blueprint. I mean, we've got two men. We got one cross-dressing man and his groomed family member. We have an incestuous, allegedly, grooming, Illuminati, lavender mafia running France. What the fuck? Okay, so what is all this? And, you know, we know that in Monsieur, France, that's a Mother Ark site. Holy Grail bloodlines. That's imprinted with the key from the Holy Grail bloodlines. These are Lyrans, folks. These are Lyrans. Okay, so The story of St. Anne's Shrine goes like this. This glorious, fictitious story. A man from Canada, believed to be, now get the name, Napoleon Pelletier. Pelletier. And I'm sure if we take apart the Pelletier name, we're going to find all kind of stuff. Came to Florida with his very sick son. His son had been diagnosed as terminally ill, in search of warmer climate. And you bring your terminally ill son on a vacation to search for a warmer climate. You know, they really feel like traveling when you're terminally ill. You really feel like going, right? While traveling in Florida, they came upon a little lake at what is now St. Anne's. Now, this was in the woods. This was in the woods. There were trails made through the woods. So, I don't believe this story. He couldn't have just traveled there. And he couldn't have hiked through the woods with a terminally ill child. Okay? They camped. They swam and camped there. And the boy's condition improved. He was miraculously cured. His cure was attributed to the healing waters. And so the man single-handedly, all by himself, built a shrine to St. Anne, a popular Canadian saint associated with water, in an oak hammock next to the lake. He did all by himself. I mean, incredible. And he managed to get all of this ancient coquina rock on top of that. Totally incredible. And I just got a notification from Ancestry. Talk about timing, right? Okay. So during World War II, the once flock of French Canadians could no longer visit the shrine. And as a result of the war closing it, why would the war close it? And another concern was commercialism. All of this combined eventually declined the church. Plans of reopening the church were considered, but again, commercialism was a concern, and the plans never fully formed. Now, the next part that's coming up is going to blow you away. Under disputed and mysterious circumstances, the church caught fire and burned to the ground in 1942. Wow, 1942. Wasn't that after World War II? Several stone walls and the original steps of the church remain. The shrine was desanctified by the Diocese of St. Augustine in 1960. Now listen to this. And most of the shrine was removed to prevent vandalisms. So, how is it that there were all of these ancient statues there that were priceless relics, but this guy built this single-handedly? Single-handedly. How did he get a hold of these priceless relics? You just don't just get those and say, hey, I'm building this, single-handedly building this shrine in Florida. You think you could come off with like a half a dozen of sacred statues that I could pop in this place, right? Okay, let's get real. So the shrine, the shrine was removed to prevent vandalism. So a priest attempted to sell the land to build a home. Local protested, and the land was preserved. So the priest, the Lavender Mafia, they tried to sell the thing off and destroy it. Cover the whole node up. Okay, so the Lake Ledger said the shrine is, historically speaking, it might be one of the most unique religious sites in Central Florida. What do you think of that, folks? So, you know, we've got the Lavender Mob. We've got the Lavender Mob. They came in after World War II, and they destroyed all these sacred nodes. They destroyed them. So when we come back, we're going to go over a video, and I'm going to introduce you to the World Mother. William Henry was on Portal to Ascension last night. He was on Portal to Ascension, or yesterday. It came up on my feed, and I wasn't really paying attention to it because I was sanding my ceramics for my Christmas bazaar. I was making some wind chimes. So I just glanced up because he's talking about lion people. And I'm like, oh, it's about time. We're finally going to talk about Lyra, right? And as I'm looking up, I see this image. Looks just like the World Mother. I'm like, oh my God, they found her. They found her. They found her. So we're going to go over the video. I am so excited. I can hardly see straight. She told me they were going to find her this year. I'm so excited that they found her. Man, it's amazing. It's wonderful. I'm so excited. So when you So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. But, you know, basically, you know, these buildings that are red brick, you know, they have memory in them. And, you know, there's a lot of places that have this memory in them. I like Walkham Water, where I live, is an Atlantean gate, and my house is made with these bricks. St. Augustine is made with these bricks. Mar-a-Lago. Look at Coral Castle. Coquina Rock. You know, so there's memory all in these. You know, it's not just about architecture, it's memory. And history, it's not just history, but frequency. So we're here to turn the light on, folks. So it's been 35 minutes, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about the Lavender Mafia and St. Anne's Shrine's history. And what do you guys think? Do you guys think that these were sacred spots, and that we had a line of nuns that came along that did just as much damage as the priest, the Catholic priest? And, you know, I like Candace Owens. I love that she exposes the things that she does, but she doesn't talk about the fact that she's a devout Catholic. And, you know, I'm speaking for myself. If I had 4 children, the last place they'd be is with some Catholic priest. You know, not until all of this stuff gets weeded out of the churches. No way. No way. I have never trusted anyone around my children. Period. I don't trust people. I don't trust people around my kids. I'd never leave my kids alone. You know, the only time that they've ever been without me was when they were in school. And, you know, my kids didn't like school at all. But, you know, they understood what it was. They understood the veil, the cloaking of it, the indoctrination of it. So, you know, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, this is a nasty little underbelly here that we're uncovering. And we got to keep exposing it. And we got to remember what we're here for. We're here to make people remember. We're here for the earth. We're here to bring back the Lyran gate. Heaven on earth. You know, it's been 26,000 years in the making. We've been doing a lot of work, folks, and I thank you for being here. So when you come and find me, I'll be here. We're living the past, present, future, all at the same time. And thank you for watching Sacred Enzyme, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.